Hey there, and welcome to the Business of Business podcast. Here we are two daughters and their dad, seeking to inspire and educate you to follow your dreams of being in business by teaching you the business of being in business. The good, the bad, the humor are all parts of our unique perspective as an entrepreneurial family. Thanks for joining us. So grab a coffee, turn up the volume. Here we go. Welcome back, everybody, to the Business of Business podcast, Two Daughters and Their Dad. I'm your host, Stacey J. Dempsey, and per usual, like always, thankfully, I have the dad, the other daughter, Jack and Jennifer. Good morning to you guys.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
So how about it? We are going to recap, check us out. We're going to recap season two. Season two, who would have thought, who would have thunk we would be talking about a whole nother season under our belt, all things business, all things trying to figure out this thing called business. Here we are, season two, and we are going to go back and think and talk about some of our guests, some of our nuggets that we've had. We've had a lot of good nuggets, right, guys?
Absolutely.
We have. And I'll tell you, Stacey, I would have thunk it because, this is just not only are we finishing up season two, just look at the season that we came through. We've come through, COVID and, there's just been a lot going on, during this time for us to talk about and to get people's perspectives over the past 12 months. So it's just been a great time for something like this. And of course, I know, we're going to be talking about this in the episodes coming up pretty soon on, even what we're facing today coming out of the pandemic with how the labor shortage is impacting businesses, supply chain issues. So there's going to be a lot more to talk about in season three. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of been, a whirlwind of the things that just the life we have been living through this past season. And like you said, Dad, there's just a ton on the horizon of not only things to talk about, but, some more uphill challenges that we have that we're going to have to overcome in life and in business. But I think we're all up for the challenge because do we have a choice? I don't know, Jennifer, you tell me. We got a choice? Because people need their hair done, okay? I'm still going to get my hair done.
And I'm here for it. I'm still going to be doing your hair.
And Jack still needs his 4 or 5 strands trimmed to the side, to the back, right?
Hold on now.
I'm just joking with you. Look,
that's
you're
right.
A stud muffin.
That's right. Now we're talking.
Well, let's jump into, I want to talk about our first guest, Madi still. Now, if you guys remember, I have a full on crush on her. She is someone that I have really enjoyed following through her Herbalife journey the last probably 4 or 5 years, strictly through social media, talking about, I know we've talked about the power of social media in many of our podcasts, but she had some excellent nuggets. If you remember, she is an Herbalife distributor as well as a brick and mortar business where she owns Be Still Nutrition in Pennsylvania. And she opened her shop and then COVID happened and she had to think outside of the box. She had to change up what she was doing, which again is kind of another theme that many of our guests have shared with us, was thinking outside of the box, coming up with a new plan and being nimble. But one of the nuggets that I loved that she shared was about filling up your own tank first. Because if you don't take care of you, there's no way you're going to be able to handle all of the challenges that you're going to face in business. And that really struck a chord, I think maybe for Jennifer and I, because ever since we could remember, Jack has been very, very much committed in his health, going to the gym and making that a priority since we were little. And so I think that that was one of the best nuggets that she shared in her time on the podcast. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, love her too. I thought it was a wonderful episode. One thing that she said was, you are your brand 100% of the time. That's a huge responsibility for a business owner. And, it's funny because I remember when she said that, and I'm just thinking about it again. I think we had that conversation before, Dad, like, you are your business 100% of the time. And when I'm across the street at Acme and I'm getting my groceries and I have my daughter with me, and I, for a quick second, think, you know what, I'm just not going to put my buggy away. And then that comes to my mind, like, well, what if someone sees me as owner of J Faith Hair Studio, and that puts a bad light in their mind for doing that? So I truck my 3-year-old over to the cart return and make sure that I do that. So that's just one example of just representing your business and representing it well. And you have to be on all of the time, whether you feel like it or you don't.
So for those who don't know Jennifer, she was practically born and raised in New Jersey. So, but the West Virginia influence rubbed off on her because only her and I call them shopping buggies. Everybody else, it's a shopping cart. But for us from West Virginia, for whatever reason, they're buggies. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out.
And whenever I say that, people do comment like, what is a buggy? And I'm like half West Virginia and half New Jersey person. So
Right.
Bear with me while I'm trying to figure it out. But
Right.
I'm trying to teach my daughter buggy, so keep it going.
But I think on that episode too, yeah, that relationship between, kind of being full tilt in your business, but yet trying to step away and build some me time. And because, there's no doubt if you're getting your business off the ground, I mean, it's all consuming. I mean, it's all consuming time, your mental, because you're constantly thinking about it, you're waking up thinking about it, you're going to bed thinking about it, you're dreaming about it. I mean, it's just there, so you have to be very intentional about, again, just filling your tank, making sure, again, you're eating well, you're getting some amount of exercise, even if it's a good walk, something just to, because, you've got to keep yourself, fit, and even though I appreciate you saying, Stacy, about me, I mean, I always, for as long as I can remember, have, tried to do things like that, but I still struggle even today of truly resting. It's hard for me to kind of break away. So even when I'm away, supposedly on vacation, it's hard for me to be away. I still want to, I still stay connected. So I end up still, where some people I kind of envy, when they go away, man, they shut it down and they don't think about it, do anything, nothing, and I struggle with that. But, but it's important that you get some rhythm and balance, in your life with some refueling and rest. So I really appreciate that with her in that episode.
Yeah. And so as we are, refilling ourselves and fueling ourselves and taking some time to just recharge, then we go into hoping for the best and praying for and preparing for the worst. So as we're filling up our bodies, also keeping our minds, understanding what our minds are going through. And I know we had in one of our podcast episodes, we talked about, when you are hoping for the best and preparing for the worst can be kind of a balancing act between managing your own mindset, but then also reassuring your clients and your staff that you're continuing to do everything right follow new protocols, right? We all were faced with new protocols this year, from, having to wear masks, having to have lots of hand sanitizer, limiting the number of people that can be in our business, which ultimately limits how much revenue we can generate when we have to limit the number of people that are in our business. Those are very, very difficult things, to combat mentally, not just only physically. And so I know we really, in one podcast, we really focused on one of the nuggets being staying positive for your clients, because they don't want to hear about your problems. For many of us, regardless of what industry we're in, we are problem solvers. People come into our office with maybe a cloud over their head, not understanding maybe what things lie ahead financially, what insurance coverages they need. They go into Jennifer's studio, and there may be a little hot mess expressed on the outside, and maybe a little hot mess expressed on the inside, but they come to us to solve a problem. And so even in the face of adversity, that nugget was to stay positive for your clients, and be their problem solver, and even in the midst of some tough stuff.
Right. And I think that, one of the things that, we heard a lot from our guests was, that they just realized that, they had to flip the switch, in 2020 of saying, all right, here's how I've been doing business, and that has been disrupted now. So they flipped this, the innovator switch on. All right, how am I going to, we talked in Jen's situation, how, again, even though she was completely shut down, she was still able to do some things with moving some, product and collaring and, for ladies' hair and things like that. So there was some innovation that came out of COVID that, that a lot of people have been able to implement, for a now part of their business. So I think one of the things that, it's a good lesson for entrepreneurs, especially those starting out, that, when things aren't breaking your way, well, you got a choice. You can go negative and thinking, oh, did I make a mistake? Or you can say, all right, let's innovate here. What do we got to do? What's some new ways that we can address this? And, and I think that was a tough lesson to learn, but a very good lesson for a lot of businesses.
Yeah. And and again, with new protocols that we've had to face, Dad, to play off what you were saying, not only did we have new protocols, but we also had to think about maybe new profit centers. And so I know, we talked a little bit about stepping outside of the box. I know Jennifer, when we were shut down, really had to think, okay, can I generate money when I'm not allowed to have people inside my business? What are some different ways that we can, potentially do some new profit centers? And so that was one of the things that we did talk about, was natural. The nugget on that one was natural add-on profit centers. So we don't want to go from one end of the spectrum to the very opposite end, and there's no natural correlation between, two ways of us making money within the same business. It's just too difficult to do. Because, Jennifer wanted to go out here and buy up a whole bunch of real estate.
Still do.
She was going to become landlord of the year.
Still want
Still
to.
does. Still does.
I'm not
I see
good
that.
at people telling me no, if you didn't know that about me yet. But you know what? And I was thinking about that, guys. I was thinking recently, especially with what we have going on right now with, so much hardship around employment, is that not only can we add profit centers to our businesses, but how can our employees have an opportunity to make multiple streams of income? Is your business set up that way? Could your business be set up that way? Is there an opportunity within your business that we can incentivize people to say, listen, there is a way to make more money, and I'm going to teach you how to do it? So I know we're saving that for our next episode, but something I've been thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we think about, on this natural profit centers, I'm going to take you guys back to season 1. How about that? Okay, let's
Ooh.
go talk about Misty Solomon real quick. Okay, of Devoured Desserts. She was shut down. Nobody can come into her place of business to get any delectable desserts. And here, if you remember, she shared she was busier than she ever was because she was working on different profit centers. She was taking the time to work on those ideas that she had, but just didn't have the time because she was so busy running her business.
Right.
But out of that, she created some different profit centers that she utilizes now that her business is back up and running, and in full swing. And another thing that she talked about with us was that she talked about pricing a little bit. I don't know if you guys remember that, but she talked a little bit about she's not the cheapest gig in town, and that there's a pricing strategy, and she doesn't apologize for what she charges because she puts a lot of time and effort and her expertise and um and love into what she sells. And so one of the, now bring it back to season 2, when we talked about choosing the right pricing strategy, and Jennifer, I know you shared that a little bit with us, because although there are multiple salons in your area, people can easily compare you. You stand firm on what value you bring to your guests.
Correct. And it's something that I'm actually super passionate about, is talking about pricing. I think it's major. I mean, like I said, when I first opened my business, I would like braid a cat's tail for any amount of money. But now, so I think there's seasons in your career and in your business that, you start to adjust those things. You have to price your services and retail in your business correctly. It's a major key in your financials, that's for sure.
Jack, you were leaning in like you wanted.
Yeah,
like,
right. I was leaning in
nugget.
because, I mean, I think that's something, again, that a lot of businesses make mistakes. They're pricing, a lot of times their pricing is established for trying to drive a lot of traffic, through their business rather than drive profitability. So I remember one of my clients was a, tree service, cut down trees, trim trees, that type of thing. And he made a statement to me. He said, I realize that if I'm winning more than 4 out of 10 bids, 4 out of 10, I'm pricing it too cheap and I'm not going to make any money. So that always stuck with me because I thought, well, why wouldn't you want to win 10 out of 10, right? Isn't 10 out of 10 better than 4 out of 10? And at the end of the day, what he pointed out was that means I'm, in order to get 10 out of 10, I'm pricing everything so cheap that all I'm doing is just funneling money from the top in, but nothing's hitting the bottom line because I'm just basic. I'm not building any real profit in there. So why am I doing a business if I can't make profit? So, so again, I think it's important that the businesses understand. I know that's one of the things that, in her business, it's, obviously you've got to think about the competition, but at the end of the day, you've got to think about, you're in business to make a profit.
Nugget alert. I like that. I just wrote that down. Why am I in business if I can't make a profit?
Girl, Dad's been saying this. Now all of a sudden it's a nugget alert for you. It's a light bulb moment. Oh my goodness.
You know how that goes.
It's
just so much information. Okay.
Well, not only are we in business to to make a profit. Hello, Jennifer. Welcome to the ball game. But something that I know Dad's always talked about, and our guest Michelle Seiler Tucker shared with us, a lot of her nuggets were surrounded about your why. So as we've gone through these headwinds of COVID, the ups and downs, the new protocols, pricing, trying to keep pricing fairly. A lot of her nuggets, which were great, were around your why. And one of her nuggets was your why has to be strong enough to keep you in the game. And, Dad's a 2-time Hall of Famer. If our listener, I'm sorry, 3 times. You're right. I'm sorry. My mistake. He just on Zoom held up the 3 fingers, corrected me. So for our listeners that don't know, we've got a 3-time Hall of Famer on this podcast. And in just one of his Hall of Fame speeches, he said, there's the how and the why. And the why is what's going to keep you going when things get tough. When you don't know how it's going to work, your why has to keep pushing you forward. I'm probably paraphrasing that. I'm sure he says it so much better than I would. But Michelle talked a lot about that as well. And actually, many of our guests have talked about their why, what keeps them going, why they keep doing what they're doing, and just how vitally important it is that you have a why. Because yes, we're in business to make money, but our ultimate why of why we're doing it typically it runs very deep for people, and everybody's why is different. Sometimes it's pursuing a dream. Sometimes, it's their family, it's their children that they just want to provide a better life for. But having your why was something that many of our guests just really hit a nugget alert, I think, for all of us. Don't you think, Jen?
Business is so hard, or it can be so hard. So I agree. And a lot of our guests have talked about that. Like, it almost takes a certain type of person to be an entrepreneur. You have to have a certain kind of drive, a certain why in your life. Because from experience, there are always lots of opportunities to quit, especially early on in your business. So having a strong why is crucial. And I know we've talked about it time and time again. And what do you think, Dad?
Yeah, well, here's a nugget for you. When you have a strong why, you will do the things necessary. You will do the things that successful people do that unsuccessful people are not willing to do. Catch it?
Got it.
Your why is what's going to drive you to do what successful people do that unsuccessful people are not willing to do. They all know how to do it. Both successful and unsuccessful people. When I look at Jen's business, there's a lot of salons that failed. It wasn't because whoever owned those salons were probably not very good at what they did. They just didn't even manage well. They didn't have a strong why that kept them, focused on on a bigger picture. So, yeah, right. It's the why, and that's what really will allow you to, take the headwinds of business and life on, when the how you do it will just fall apart, because again, it's just not going to stand up. But if you know that, hey, I'm doing this because I want to, and you fill in, and it's like Jen said, it's strong and it's deep, then you're going to say, you know what, I'm not giving up. I'm making that one more sales call. I'm going to, get up early and get ready for my, all the things that you need to do. It will drive. And again, those little things that you have to do to be successful.
Yeah. And if you remember our guest, Monica, I went to high school with her. She was such a powerful guest. I know one of the things that she talked about when she spent some time with us was that, your why is what's going to help you get through when you have to build your business with blood, sweat, and tears. Because everyone is building their business with their blood, sweat, and tears. And your why is really what pushes past your fears of what if, and really helping you to focus on quality, not quantity, in some cases. So I know Monica, she hit on, what her why was, and just how powerful knowing what your why is in your business is. Someone who had a pretty neat why, was our guy, Joe, Pizza Joe. Love Joe. Joe was incredibly funny, but wow, did he had some nuggets. Okay. And he, you know what, thinking back to his episode, he talked about some really great, like basic 101, nothing like, we're not talking about any fancy strategy, nothing too overly crazy in business. But one of the things I loved that I feel like so many people forget is, number one, treat people how you want to be treated. Right. I mean, I talk to my kids about that. If you don't want your brother to do that to you, then you don't do that to your brother. And being a good listener. Many of us who are in management leadership roles, I think there's maybe an expectation for us to have something to say, have a way to respond. We have the words, but listening, just taking the time to listen to what the people around you have to say and having patience. I mean, it really doesn't get much simpler than that. But Joe had some really great, nuggets in his episode.
You know what my favorite thing about Joe was, don't you?
What's that?
I can't believe you don't remember this.
What was it?
He had a pickup truck that had 400,000 miles on it.
That's right.
Remember? And he just said, he goes, I love my pickup. I just drive it around Gloucester County, New Jersey. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, you even pointed that out, Stacy. It's like, yeah, you're right up my dad's alley.
That's right.
Right now, my 2011 Ford Taurus has 243,000 on it. And every time I'm thinking, I probably should do something, I think of Joe. And I'm thinking, no, I'm going to see what I can. So I go, as soon as I start thinking maybe I should get rid of this car, I think of Joe and I go wash it.
Yeah, I think there's maybe have a little secret competition there going on with Joe. See if you
400 is going to be tough, maybe. 400 is going to be tough, but we're going to keep going. Let me put it that way.
Yeah,
but, right. I think you're right. Joe was, just really a good down to earth business guy, kind of and there's a lot to be said for this, kind of the street smart guy, that's just, he's been around the business. He's just good common sense, street smarts. And there's a lot to that. I tell you, matter of fact, be honest with you, I would much rather do business with someone that's got good street smarts than somebody that's got good college smarts.
Yeah.
Because, there's a big difference, when you know what the real world is like and can, and really understand it, you're going to do well. So that would be a great idea for a lot of our listeners, see if because we talk a lot about mentors and a lot of our people, if you can find that person that can mentor you, just see if you can find someone that's got some good street smarts and let them teach you kind of from the streets up, so to speak.
Dempsey Weiss & Associates is a multi-line insurance agency successfully meeting the insurance and financial needs of the landscaping, business contractor, and agricultural community in southern New Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania since 1989. To learn more, visit us at www.dempseyweiss.com. J Faith Hair Studio, centrally located in southern New Jersey. J Faith Hair Studio is the place to go to become the best version of yourself. Confidence in your appearance is always important, and a great hairstyle is an absolute necessity. Visit jfaithherestudio.com to book your appointment today.
You know who's someone else that I feel like had some pretty good street smarts, and she was pretty darn funny, was Michelle Tomko. She was this is called, am I going to get this wrong? This is called show business, not show and tell. That wasn't it. What was her nugget? I just had it on the tip of my tongue. It's called show business, not show talent. Yes, that was. Yes.
Show and tell.
Show and tell. Well, you know what? Listen, neither one of you guys were jumping in, so I was rolling with it. But show.
Yeah, you're around little kids.
This is true. But not only did she have, and I think she really showed that she had street smarts, but she really learned the business of being a comedian. And she really did a great job of illustrating for us that people see about 2% of what she really does. And the other 98% is her working on her business. And she talked a lot about, not undervaluing herself, because she's not selling necessarily a product, she's selling herself, and how it can be very grueling in her business to discount, if she wants to do a show, and people want her to discount that. And she knows what she brings, what type of audience she can bring. And you could, I think in her episode, I'm hoping our listeners could really take away the fact that she loved what she does, but she had to learn the business of how to do it, and do it really well, so that that's what she could do all full time. And that it wasn't always what she got to do full time, because it didn't always pay the bills. So, and she was probably one of the funniest ones guests we've ever had.
But I think that's true for most entrepreneurs, is that people see, what you show them, right? So in my case, they just see you behind the chair doing hair, or they just see you at that appointment, or they just see you when they're picking up their pizza. But a lot of the times, most of the time, you're not seeing all of what goes into learning the business of being in business or being an entrepreneur. Early mornings, late nights. Sometimes I'm like, why am I always the first one here and the last one to leave? Oh, that's right. But people don't always see that, and that can be hard, especially when people want to discount your services and things like that. It kind of takes a blow to all of the hard work behind the scenes that people don't always get to see.
Yeah, right. And I love that, because again, that's what this podcast is all about. It's, whatever you're doing to generate revenue is a business. So, we look at, okay, well, they're a comedian. We don't think of that as a business, but it is, and there's business principles that have to be applied, to what she's doing in order to be successful and drive revenue. I remember back a long time ago in the 90s, probably early 90s, when Tiger Woods was really coming onto the scene and just kind of taking professional golfing by storm. And I remember them interviewing a golfer, Payne Stewart, who had won quite a few tournaments, some big tournaments like the US Open. And they were saying, what do you think of Tiger and, all that he's doing? And he said, I'm in the business of golf, and he is good for my business. And I just thought to myself, see, that is what we're talking about, right? I mean, I just thought of him as a golfer. I didn't think of him being a business person in the business of golf, but golf is what drove revenue to his business. So it wasn't just what he did on the course. He got endorsements, a lot of side things that he did to continue to drive revenue. So Michelle's, episode was really good to see. Everything's a business practically. Everything's a business.
Yeah. And, although most people might not understand this or even believe this, but even nonprofit is a business. And so that brings me to Doug, Doug Hayes of Covenant Mercies. And, I know in some upcoming episodes, we're going to be talking about, the challenge with employment and finding people and hiring the right people. But one of Doug's nugget alerts was having a team that believes in your mission and your culture. And I know, Dad, early on, you shared the story of when you just started Dempsey Weiss and you could not offer people maybe salaries that they were used to or that, they wanted, but you did, you were able to convey to them what the dream was, what the vision is, and point out to them some, other benefits that they may not have taken into account, like being able to be 5 minutes down the road from where you live, rather than a 45-minute drive one way, every day to work. But Doug, he really did point out, having the team that believes in your mission and your culture. And he does a really good job of saying, this is what we are going to do day in and day out, and finding the people that want to be a part of that. And in doing that, he also shared some ways of, just being nimble as, and adapting the plan as it needs to be, because although nonprofit oftentimes is not think of as a traditional for-profit business, it is still a business that has to be run. It is still, employees still need to be paid. Revenue still has to filter into that organization for the job at hand to be completed. And so many of the challenges that we face in for-profit, he faces in nonprofit. Just a couple little differences, which I think we shared on that. Typically, and not in nonprofit, the people that we serve are our clients, and not necessarily the people that are paying us like it is in for-profit. But he had such a good, so many good nuggets in that episode.
Yeah, I think my favorite part about Doug's story was really his startup. And I know that we've talked about this in other episodes of, where do you get the money to start any type of business? And in his case, a nonprofit. And I know I asked him that question. So, I think that was really inspiring, especially for our listeners who are thinking about starting a business, interested, but maybe don't have the funds. And in his episode, he was talking about really just sharing the vision with the community, which his community was the church, right? The church that he had, and really depended on donations to start this vision. So I think that was my favorite part about his story.
Yeah, and then we did go on to talk later on in another episode, in how do we attract the right talent. And our own Jay Faith over here had a whole nugget,
Can we put
that
it
I think overshadowed, really set the tone for that whole episode. And that was that you said, you have to make it to be insanity if someone doesn't want to work for you. And that set the tone for that episode in attracting talent. And I know you shared some stories of how people Googled you, Instagrammed you, and people could see your talent, see what kind of work you were producing, and, really what your culture is. And how you've set that and just attracting the type of talent that you want inside of your business.
Yeah, and I think a huge thing that we talked about this a lot, Dad, is money isn't everything. I think that really from a leadership or an ownership point of view is that the number one thing is you have to care about your people, right? You really have to care about your people and their growth and what they have going on in their personal life to a healthy boundary. And so, the way that I view things is it's all about the little things, just going that extra mile for someone's birthday, or just really being there if they're going through a hard time in one way or another, whatever that looks like for you and your business. I think that goes a long way to, number one, just care about your people. And obviously that will attract the people that are meant to work in your business and represent your brand, because that's what we want to make sure that our employees are doing, are constantly representing our brand as if we are not there.
Yeah, so I think that the having that vision, as Doug talked about, that big vision for whatever pursuit it is, 501c3, charitable, or for profit, and let the vision then drive everything else. So when it comes to attracting talent, that vision should, and I love that too. That was what Jennifer said. If nothing else, a strong candidate should walk away saying, wow, that is exciting, what I just heard. Now, that doesn't mean they'll end up coming with you, or there might be other reasons why they don't come with you, but you at least need your vision for your business and how that person, or how that role, I should say, is going to help that vision or meet that vision, then they're going to walk away saying, wow, that is really a very attractive opportunity. So, and that's the best we can do. I mean, that's the best you can do, is, hopefully give them the wow, and then hope, of the other things that, you can work out and fall into place, to get them on your team, if that's the right person.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of our last guests that come to mind was Tina with Joyful Restoration, and how she really talked about, and Jennifer, you mentioned, allowing people to really feel and that you care, and going the extra mile. And Tina kind of hit on that in some of her nuggets. And one of the things was, she mentioned to be authentic to who you are. So, and do what's natural. So a lot of these things that we would do for people that, some may consider going the extra mile, or allowing them to feel that we care about them, are things that we would naturally do anyway. When you're working with people, when you're side by side with people, you're typically naturally going to show your appreciation for their effort and their energy and their input. But that's one of the things that Tina had mentioned, was to be authentic. The other nugget that I really loved, and it's something that many people get hung up on, is she shared about, social media is not about the likes, it's about planting the seeds. And don't we live in a world where it's how many likes did I get? How many followers did I get? Did somebody leave me an emoji? We're always looking for that almost gratification of, okay, someone liked what I posted, somebody liked what I put out there. And yes, in some way, shape, or form, those things are important. But what's also important is to understand that just because they didn't like it doesn't mean that they didn't see it. And Tina talked a lot about that she's actually gotten, some business from people that, they never really shared or liked anything on her social media, but their client, she's put something out there in the universe, and it's resonated with someone, and, she's received business from that. So that was one of the best nuggets I think that she shared, was not to get so caught up in how many likes we have, but to just keep planting our seeds out there. And she was a super fun guest. You could tell she is doing what she feels is best all the time, and she is not going to be unauthentic in any way, shape, or form for anything. So,
well, yeah. Plus, as you were talking about that, it just reminded me too of all of our, one of the common themes from all of our guests is, and Tina talked about just her personal story. It seems like so many of our guests have a personal story that has some connection to their business pursuits. And, obviously Tina's that was a strong part of why she ended up doing what she's doing, because of her story and the things that she's walked through, during her life. And I agree with you that on the that planting of seeds, that is a great point, because people, entrepreneurs, people in general, they don't feel, we're so used to having instant gratification today, and we like it when we feel like, this isn't really connecting, or we're not getting the response. We quit. I mean, we just quit doing it, rather than saying, you know what, I'm just planting seeds. I'm just going to keep putting it out there, and keep doing what I know is going to be the right thing, and just, and let time do what it's supposed to do as far as, cultivating, those seeds that I'm planting. So yeah, those were really good points. I appreciate you bringing those up, Stacy.
yeah, so here we are at the end of season 2, and it's been super fun. It's been fun to do it with the dad and the other daughter. And how fortunate we have been to meet some really incredible guests, some incredible people who have been willing to share their story, share their journey, share their advice, and bringing it all back around to why this podcast was even thought of, dreamt of. Truly what Dad had realized in working with Jennifer to get her business started is that many of these struggles and challenges are very universal, regardless of what the industry is. And so to our listeners who are thinking about being in business, who are in business, please remember that you are not on your own island. Many of the things that you might feel like you're going through, or challenges that you're facing, the good news is that somewhere along the line, someone has experienced, lived through, triumphed over what you're currently facing. And that is the good news. The wheel is not necessarily recreated for us in our challenges, but out of those challenges can be some really great, new, exciting ideas and profit centers, because let's remember, we're in business to make money. So Jack and Jennifer, thank you for another season. Do you guys have anything that you would like to share with our listeners before we send them off into the end of season 2?
I just wanted to also give a big thank you to Janet, our producer, who sits here and listens to us, and and then does the editing for us. So just want to thank Janet for all that she does. So thank you, Janet. She gave a big thumbs up.
Jennifer, any final thoughts on season 2?
Yeah, I just want to thank all of our guests that came onto our podcast and shared with us. I want to thank our listeners, because without our listeners, we would just be talking to each other all the time. And I want to encourage our listeners to email us. We want to hear from you. We want to answer some more of your questions. So don't forget to do that as we plan and prep for season 3.
Good stuff. And so, yes, thank you, Janet, for editing and everything that you do for our podcast. Thank you to each and every one of our listeners that are all over the world. How about that? So thank you for tuning in. And as Jennifer said, you can email us at 2daughters, that's TWO, 2daughters and their dad @gmail.com with any questions that you would like for us to answer, on our podcast. So thank you guys for season 2. Until we're together again, be safe, be kind to each other, and most importantly, be kind to yourself. So long now. We want to thank you for listening today. Please subscribe so you never miss an episode. Leave us a positive review. And we want to say thank you to our sponsors, Dempsey Weiss & Associates and J Faith Hair Studio.